The Dukes of Dice are brought to you by Arcane Wonders, Game Toppers, losing your voice due to hockey, and listeners like you.
Welcome to the Duchy. It's time for another episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network.
Coming to you from the Duchy in the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the Gateway City, St. Louis, Missouri, it's the Dukes of Dice, a podcast about board, card, and occasionally role-playing games. Today, the Dukes do their first top 6 list in a long time. The top 6 Sean games for Alex, and the top 6 Alex games for Sean. Then they'll be taking a look back at their reviews of Steamrollers and Dragon Castle in their Dukes quadruple take. And now, the Dukes of Dice.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Sean.
And Alex. And this week, we're tapping... I was trying to jump the gun on you there, Sean, but it's not going to work. What's your plan? No, but it didn't work.
What an absolute failure. Wait, so was the plan you were going to steal my line?
I was going to steal your line so that you couldn't beat me to Baseball Highlights 2045, first mentioned, by the way.
Oh, I see.
It worked out anyway.
Because we're trying to crisscross?
No, it was because of the episode title name. I thought when you were like, well, that's interesting because of this, I thought you were going to try and jump in and beat me to the punch.
Okay.
But you didn't, because I beat you.
Episode 203, which we're calling Baseball Highlights The Gathering, which is a title suggested by listener Brett Mowers. Of course, we're talking about my top picks of games that would be Alex games and vice versa. So 2 of our favorite games smushed together, smashed and or smushed.
Yes.
Alex, what is your favorite exchange of role movies? Because that was kind of the theme on the guild this week, right?
Trading places.
Trading places. Okay, so
I have not actually seen Freaky Friday.
Not an actual body swap movie.
Correct.
Such as vice versa, or okay. There's also, for some reason, I think of. Have you ever seen Throw Mama from the Train?
No, I've never even heard of this.
With Billy Crystal and Danny DeVito and the criminal mother from Goonies. Never heard of this movie?
Nope, never even heard of it.
The plan is for them to murder each other's targets. Danny DeVito wants to murder his mom, and Billy Crystal wants to murder, I think, his ex-wife, and they decide to murder the other one so that it can't get linked back to them, crisscross.
Mm.
So, Alex, who would you like me to murder?
Sean, I would like you to murder the lack of time that keeps me from playing as many games as I want to. Ooh.
Crisscross.
Oh.
Okay. And I don't want you to murder anyone, Alex, because murder is wrong. So I'm a little... Anyway, we get all of the help. Wow, this is an interesting
off
one.
the rails immediately, and it has not gotten back on the rails.
It's interesting because there's a train scene in Throw Mama from the Train. Isn't that what's called?
I'm shocked.
Oh, yeah.
I'm shocked that in a movie with train in the title, they have a train scene.
Forgot. Which works out because we're talking about Steamrollers later in our Duke's quadruple take. See, Alex, it's all circling back together.
Yep.
But anyway, we get help naming our episodes from our awesome guild members over at our Board Game Geek Guild, guild number 2008. And at the end of the episode, we'll give you the runners-up for titling the episode. How you doing, Alex?
I am doing remarkably well. It's a beautiful time to be in St. Louis, Sean.
Okay.
Beautiful time. Because the Blues are Stanley Cup champions.
Great. I am so happy for you, Alex.
You should be. It was exciting stuff.
What was your contribution to their victory?
I cheered so loud. And I bought merchandise, which helps support the long-term future of the team.
Sure. Yeah, those owners, they're really struggling.
Yeah. Hey, you gotta make sure they don't move it to Saskatoon or something.
Sure.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Give a little hockey love.
Yeah. No, I used to love IHL hockey in Phoenix growing up. We used to go to Roadrunners games, Phoenix Roadrunner games all the time, back in the day.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this before.
Probably. I was Orlando Solar Bears for the record, way back when.
Yeah. Is IHL still around?
It is. It's a different. Well, no, sorry, it's not. It's long gone, and The ECHL sort of has scooped up some of those teams, but no, the IHL, as it were, went defunct.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, this is great. This is groovy. So other than that, you're good, right?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm good. It's been a crazy week. We had my new attorney start on Monday, and it's not a baby attorney that I have to train. She actually used to be my boss. So then 2 days later, we hired an additional paralegal. And the day before that, we put in a bid on a new office space in a little bit of a ritzier location uptown in a much nicer multi-story office building. So we look like real attorneys. So it is a frightening time, and I am having bouts of crippling anxiety every now
Excellent.
and then.
Wonderful. Well, congrats on being a real grown-up lawyer.
I will say, Alex, I'm a little offended. Before we went on air, you fat shamed me.
I did no such thing.
You fat shamed me, Alex.
No.
And I'm just offended. So I just want you to know that. But I got to tell you something, Alex. I got to tell you
something.
something.
Can we give better context to this? Can we give better context to what you mean by that?
I'm joking. That was my segue because I need listeners' help.
Oh.
Yeah. So this I'm kind of springing this on you, Alex. But Edward from Heavy Cardboard, he went through this big weight loss period. I think it's probably a couple of years ago now, and is kind of keeping, like, he wanted a little bit of accountability from listeners. Okay. And just having to kind of check in, right? So I have decided. So let me put it this way, Alex. Ready for this? When you and I met, I was probably, I think I was probably between 200 and 210.
Okay.
I am currently 310, Alex.
Oh boy, you a big boy.
I'm a big boy. So, and here's the thing. I know what to do. Like, I know how to be healthy. I know how to eat healthy. I know how to do portions. I know how to cook. I know how to do all these things. I know what kind of physical activity I need. And ever since Chewy was born, like, I put on weight with Raquel when she got pregnant, and then she dropped all the weight, and I just kept gaining the weight. So,
oh boy.
But I'm just like, enough's enough. Like, there have been little half-hearted attempts over the last year or two. And I think that now my mind is really in it. I spent a good chunk of yesterday doing meal prep because I could eat the same thing day after day after day. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. So I have these delicious protein power bowls that I made, blackened chicken with chickpeas and a bunch of different types of peppers and red cabbage, and avocado, all portion controlled, all stuff that's going to be super filling. I made some protein packed minestrone soup last night. So I'm set on meals for the week. And as long as I do that, I can stick with this. So I don't want to take up too much more time here. And in future episodes, just a little check-in. How am I doing? So that I can't just kind of write off a week or write off a couple days, be like, oh, I had a bad, I got to be accountable.
I like that. If folks want to join you, they should probably do so on the Guild. It wouldn't. Yeah. I'm trying to think of a good name for that thread, and I don't have it offhand. I will say I'm just north of 200 for the first time in my life. And
oh my goodness, you're so fat, you fatty.
and I could probably stand to lose a few pounds myself. So
yeah, you're disgusting.
Okay. 310, man.
Yeah, no, that's something.
That's a lot of beef.
Yep.
All right.
Delicious beef.
Well, yeah. You can put some of that in the minestrone, and you're good to go.
Gross. I think human would be delicious. I'm just saying, I think human would be delicious.
Depends on the human.
And if they're, yes.
All right. Sean, you want to start us off? Let's talk about board games. We've talked about
board games.
Hockey, weight loss, and trying to jump each other on a big inside joke in the show, but we have not talked much about board games.
Sure. So I'm going to talk about a game I got playing a couple weeks ago, didn't make it onto the recent plays, and it's Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, the new hotness from Fantasy Flight Games, where you're taking over some, for some people, some familiar characters, and for others, maybe some less familiar characters in the Lord of the Rings story. It is a adventuring game. at first my expectation was that it was going to be like Descent, Lord of the Rings, like a Descent dungeon crawl style game. And it's not. It's more of an adventuring game like, and I just use this in the broadest genre sense, like a Mage Knight, the board game. Now, there are some missions of the game that are more tactical oriented, kind of like a dungeon crawl. But basically, it's an app-driven game, and in most of the scenarios, you have this larger map set up. It's more of like a regional map, I think, than like a big world map of Middle-earth. And you and the characters that you and your friends are playing are going to be moving around. There are points on the board that you're going to kind of investigate or look into, and then you plug that into the app, and the app tells you what happens, and there are story choices you have to make. And then every now and then, enemies spring up and they can pursue you, and they can attack you, and you can attack them. And the main way that the system works is through this deck management system. You have a deck, I think it's unique to your character, and then you add things in based on their class and based on a couple other things. And at the start of each round, you scout, and you look at a certain number of cards from the top of your deck, which you can put in front of you, which give you some sort of special ability. The rest of the cards go either back on top or on bottom. And then as you're doing things, you're pulling cards from the deck to look for successes on little corners. So they're kind of multi-use cards. And that's the long and the short of it. The individual scenario we played, I believe, was the introductory scenario. And I can't remember what we were doing. Alex, I did not enjoy this. I did not enjoy this at all. And
I heard this was bad from someone else too.
Yeah, and it's really surprising because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I've read all the books, including the Silmarillion several times, including the works of his son Christopher Tolkien, or that he edited and stuff. Like, I have been super immersed in the Lord of the Rings lore, and I am a huge fan. Like, Fellowship of the Ring is one of my favorite movies of all time. And man, this just was not good. It was kind of tedious. The success system, the deck system that they used, it felt kind of like whack-a-mole. And I don't know that the tactical missions, which again I didn't play, I don't know that they're any better because they're not super tactical looking. There's no, I don't know. I don't want to get into that too much because I haven't played that. But it just was not particularly enjoyable, and it didn't feel immersive, and it didn't feel it just wasn't fun. And that was kind of a bummer because I was really looking forward to this. I'm glad I didn't pick up a copy because our buddy Matt had picked up a copy and he had run through it, I think, solo a couple times. And then he ran through it with Matthew, and I was playing a different game, and then I jumped in. And this was a huge letdown because I was really looking forward to this game, as big a fan of Middle-earth as I am. So
now, is it a one-time deal, or do you think you might enjoy it more on future plays, or is it just the system and the setup and everything has you think there's no way this is going to turn around?
Yeah, the system isn't great. Like, it's not the worst system in the world, and there's some other games that might do something similar, but it just wasn't a great system. But more than that, just the gameplay itself, it feels very random. It's generated, like, the maps are generated randomly, even in the same scenario, which is good for replayability purposes, but it can do some weird things. So, like, one time you play the scenario, you might trigger a goal that's like right next to you. The next time you play it, you trigger that same goal that's going to be like way across the map. And so there's no way to account for that, I guess, if that makes sense. It didn't feel like a cohesive game. It just wasn't good.
All right. Yeah, fair enough.
And I think the app does a good job of what it's trying to do. So again, I have not played Mansions of Madness, but it's closer to the current edition of Mansions of Madness than it is, say, a Descent. And I think we were playing with Nick, who's a big Mansions of Madness fan, and he's like, "No, I'd play Mansions of Madness over this any day of the week. So I need to play that. I have Mansions of Madness. You have not played that yet, correct?
I have played that, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Played and discussed it on the show, my dude.
Oh. Well.
Yeah, it's good. Mansions of Madness is good.
Yeah.
I got really into the story. I have only played the first scenario of that game. I haven't played anything past that, but yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, anyway, that is Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. I guess check it out or don't.
No, don't. It seems to be the recommendation.
Well, yeah, don't.
Okay.
And it's sad. Anyway.
Cool. Well, I am going to give a recap of my Origins experience, so that's going to lead to a discussion of several games. In this first chunk, only one new game, though. I'll get to that in a second. I mentioned the Blues won the Stanley Cup, and it was in Game 7. It was against the Boston Bruins. It's the first ever one for the city. The city was freaking out, but I wasn't here. I was in Columbus, because hence Origins is in Columbus, watching at a bar. Sean, have you ever seen, they have these hockey helmets, and then they have these giant tubes that you can fill with beer that can sit on top of them, and then you can dispense it from there? Have you ever seen this?
Yeah. I mean, maybe not the hockey kind, but I've seen like a baseball helmet that way.
It comes with what effectively has about 6 different beers that you can dispense out of that. Or sorry, 6 total beers, not different. So we had one of those for the first period. We had one of those for the second period, and we had one of those for the third period. It was a good night. The Blues won the cup. I was quite inebriated, and I was yelling a lot. Now, here's the thing with that. At conventions, your voice is going to go. At least mine does. Mine typically is gone by late Saturday into Sunday. Sean, my voice was gone by Friday. Just toast. Absolutely not there. Yeah. And it's most of the way back, but it hasn't completely recovered yet. I was yelling a bunch. Now, I will say this. That same night after the Blues won the Stanley Cup, we all sort of retreated back to a hotel room to continue the celebration after leaving the bar. And the game that came out was dead last. Sean, I believe you've played this one before.
Yeah, I sure have.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a very good Sean kind of game. For those who don't know, it's a player elimination game where you're all going to vote to eliminate one person each round. If you don't vote with the winning team, you're out. And if you're the person voted out, you're out, unless, of course, that person who's voted out plays an ambush card and reverses it and picks someone from the winning team to X, to knock out of the game. So that's dead last. It is a game that is pure social deception, I think, is the better phrase, rather than social deduction. There aren't hidden roles, but you are trying to figure out who's in the majority. It's a game where, being subtle can pay off. You can text people. You're allowed to flash your cards. Basically, any method you want to communicate, you can use to communicate with other people. Sean, I will tell you, being very drunk, I was not very good at this game.
Okay.
It was very, very bad, in fact. I was openly telling people, I'm going to vote you off. You're dead this round. Blah, blah, blah. It didn't work out well for me. I don't think I made it. I made it past one vote one time. So I wasn't playing that game. Yeah, it wasn't great. Wasn't playing that game very well. Now, another thing that I did out at Origins is something, Sean, and I think you've told me before you have not done this, right? True Dungeon?
I have not. I have yet to do a True Dungeon.
You need to do True Dungeon. It's so good, and you would enjoy it a lot. So for folks who don't know, True Dungeon is a mix between an RPG, it's a little bit of LARP, a little bit of shuffleboard, weirdly, and D&D. So RPG, D&D, same thing. Anyway, you go basically through escape rooms. You go through a series of escape rooms, effectively, that are a mix of puzzles and combats and various things as you go along through a story. You travel with up to 10 people. Each person has to be a different character class, which will be important as part of a story I'll tell in just a second. Combat works via shuffleboard and spells. So the DM, you'll walk up to the DM and tell them your action for the round. If you're a wizard casting a spell, they'll give you a little memory test, and if you pass the memory test, your spell is more effective. If you are a fighter class, a barbarian, that kind of thing, you'll put these little chips that you get into a puck and then slide the puck onto kind of a map of the enemy, and where you hit on that enemy determines the damage you do, much like D&D. It sort of translates into your roll. People have all sorts of fun gear in this. The secondary market for this game is absolutely insane. There are chips out there that are $1,200 to $1,500 And on the run we went on, one of the people we went with had 10 of those chips. 10 of them. It's a lot of fun. I ended up doing 2 runs. I did them with lawyer Dan from New Mexico and his girlfriend Rachel. So had a ton of fun out there doing that. Sean, though, people can be very picky about their character classes in this game. So do you know the character class you would pick if you were to run through this? You got wizard, the typical D&D classes. Yeah,
I'm either a wizard or a sorcerer. I love spellcasters. I've always loved spellcasters.
So there isn't a sorcerer proper. There is a druid. There's a cleric, and there's a wizard and an elf wizard. Those are the two different classes you can play as.
Okay.
Tends to rely on memorization, but I think it would be very much up your alley. I'm bad at sliding pucks. I'm so very bad at sliding pucks. So I stuck with wizard or elf wizard and lived that way. We're setting up. We're getting ready to go. Most people are in the room already, and this guy shows up a little bit late. He's like, "Excuse me, how's it going? Does anyone have the character sheet for the Dwarven Fighter? Does anyone have the Dwarven Fighter?" And someone's like, "Oh, I have the Dwarven Fighter." He's like, "Excuse me, but you're going to want me as your Dwarven Fighter." And then we all looked at his shirt, and you know what he had written across his shirt, Sean?
Dwarven Fighter?
It sure did. He was wearing a Dwarven Fighter shirt. So he came ready to go. And then as we're setting up our chips, so to kind of explain a little bit of how this works, there's a ready room where you'll equip different items. So I might equip a crown of treasure finding, or I might equip gloves, or I might equip pants, I might equip shoes, I might equip a belt, different weapons, whatever I'm going to need to go through the dungeon run, I'm going to equip. The GM's going to write down, and then I can put away those chips unless it's something like, say, my weapon or a scroll or those kinds of things. I was playing as the cleric this time around because the wizard spots were taken by more competent players. And he looked over at me and said, "Excuse me, Sir Cleric, I have this item that may prove to help save your bacon. Now, if it sufficiently does so, I hope you will reward me in the form of, say, some monster bits." Now,
wait, is he from the Bronx or Queens?
I don't know where he's from, but it was an amazing voice, and it became a thing over the course of the weekend with both Lawyer Dan, and then everyone else at the convention. Just this term, monster bits. So, a part of this game too is there's a collectible nature to it, where if you collect sets of these monster parts, monster bits, you can trade them in to upgrade certain items or get certain items. And he was on a quest, as a lot of people are, to get chips going back up to 4 years. So if I had drawn any of this year's chips out of the box, he was wondering if I'd be willing to give him trade with him in exchange for this item that might sufficiently save my bacon. It was my friends stepped in and were like, "Yeah, no, I don't think he needs that. It's okay." But it was a little wild. It's wild how into that game people get. It's fantastic, but a little wild. I had fun. Again. The rooms are really immersive. The puzzles are fun. The combats are engaging. They have live actors in the rooms. It's really cool. If you like escape rooms at all, I would highly recommend True Dungeon. Sean, you should come to Origins, not Gen Con, Origins, and do a True Dungeon run.
Okay.
They're about $20 cheaper per run, too, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah.
Because they're a little pricey, right?
Yeah, I think it was $50 or $60 at Origins, and it's, I think, $80 at Gen Con. And it's in high demand. They have the space underneath the Colts Stadium to set up all these dungeons, and people, these will sell out months in advance. I will not be doing True Dungeon at Gen Con when that time comes. So cool. So that's True Dungeon. And the last one I'm going to talk about, Sean, is a Vital Lacerda game. Escape Plan. Yeah. So Kyle Guajardo and Randy Bieri, both members of the Duchy, wanted to coordinate getting in a play of Escape Plan. And Escape Plan, for folks who don't know, is a game where you are a criminal trying to plan your escape route out of town. You're going to be making investments in certain businesses as you go. You're going to be trying to avoid or pay off cops. You can get motorcycle gangs to help you deal with various situations. There's a something in the top 6 names later on that I will explain that's sort of tied into this. But without getting too much into depth, it's the least crunchy Vital Lacerda game I've played, and still feels very much like Vital Lacerda. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my play of this. My questions would be mainly about long-term replayability with this game, which are questions I haven't necessarily had as strongly with other Lacerda games. Sean, you've discussed this one before. Yeah,
a couple episodes ago, and it was good, but I think I have the same concerns about replayability in the future. It's not. It's on the lighter side of a Lacerda game. It almost doesn't feel like a Lacerda game, but it does, if that makes sense. And it was almost like Lacerda's attempt at Ameritrash.
Yeah,
sort of.
Yeah, sort of. There's no dice rolling, if I'm recalling correctly in that game.
Right. I'm just saying it's if he were to design an Ameritrash game, this is what it would look like. So it's not an Ameritrash game,
right?
But
I get what you're saying. Cool. And then also really quickly wanted to thank all of the Dukes fans who came by the booth, because at least in the early days of the show, there were a ton. There were more than I was expecting by a good amount. It was super cool to see everyone. So yeah, thanks to the Duchy for showing up and saying hi to me in my gravelly voice. But yeah, that's all I'll talk about with Origins for now. Back to you, Sean.
All right. Well, the last game that I will talk about could have been a finishing up of Detective, but it's not, unfortunately. We actually got together with Rory Marie. We had Mariah. Raquel had just purchased a projector, a little tiny projector, and we had it all set up, ready to go for the fourth scenario. We had the projector on the wall where I was going to keep a list of like all of the leads left to follow, like just so everyone can kind of see them together, because that was always kind of hard for some of us. And then Chewy got sick. It was terrible. We had a wonderful barbecue. It was great food. There was delicious sausage, and then Chewy got sick, and we had to go right before we got started, all set up and had to leave. So we were all bummed, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. But everyone was excited to do it, if that says anything.
Yep, it does.
We'll make it happen. But here's what I will talk about. I'm going to talk about Gandhi, which just came off P500 over from GMT Games. And this is, I believe, the 9th volume in the Coin series, which is short for Counterinsurgency. And if people will recall, Root is kind of like a beginner coin game is maybe not the right word, but it's based on the Coin series-ish, sort of. It's this idea where there are multiple factions that are asymmetrical, that are vying for control, but sometimes you have to help out someone to hurt someone else, because there's always this kind of attack the leader mentality. And Coin is short for Counterinsurgency. Basically, in Gandhi, you have 4 different factions. You have the British Raj, you have the Indian Congress, you have the Muslim League, and then you have the Violent Revolutionaries. And it is a beautiful map of India. It takes place from 1917 to 1947. And the coin series is interesting, Alex. So you were a fan of Root, right?
Yeah, enough of a fan, for sure.
Okay. And so what's really interesting is everyone has completely different objectives. Like, people win in different ways. No, that's not the same thing in Root, right? No, everyone wins in the same way in Root.
Not necessarily. There's some factions that win in different ways.
Okay. Oh, no, that's right. It's the kind of the same, where it's a matter of like victory points, but you get victory points in different ways.
Right.
So yeah, that's the same in the coin games, and in this case, Gandhi. So, for example, what the British Raj is trying to do is it's trying to have control over various territories by having more forces in them. And when it does, it's going to score points equal to the population. But not just having control, it also has to kind of win hearts and minds, because in addition to just brute control of a territory, there's also the level to which the population supports the Raj. So it could either be neutral, it could be passive support or strong support, or it could be passive opposition or strong opposition. And it's basically a modifier of the population. So if the British Raj controls a 2-population territory and it has strong support there, which is a double modifier, It's 2 points for control, and then 4 points for the population times the double modifier. So it's worth 6 points, and it needs, I think, like 40 total. But at the same time, if I am, say, the Indian Congress, what I'm trying to do, I don't care about control. I don't care about military control of the provinces. All I care about is opposition. So whatever, just any amount of opposition is what I'm looking for. Whereas, say, the Muslim League is also looking for opposition, but specifically opposition in the Muslim majority territories. Does that make sense?
It does.
So
yeah.
At a certain, and we have different thresholds. So like the Indian Congress needs a much higher threshold or much higher win threshold than the Muslim League does. So sometimes I'm helping the Muslim League, but at the same time, I'm gaining them points and myself points. And at a certain point, I've got to look for points elsewhere. Meanwhile, the revolutionaries are going around creating unrest and terror campaigns and all sorts of stuff. This was a lot of fun. This was pretty rough. You would have been miserable, Alex. We spent about 6 hours playing.
Oh, God. Why?
On a Wednesday night. Well, and here's the thing. So this would be my 4th or 5th play of a coin game. So I've played Cuba Libre twice at BGG Con. Travis Hill's a big coin fan, and at BGG Con years ago, he ran us through a couple games of it, which was a lot of fun. And then I've played Cuba Libre solo before, and then I've also played Colonial Twilight solo, which is actually a 2-player coin game. And so there's been a group of us that have wanted to start playing coin games semi-regularly. And we're always kind of looking for the perfect opportunity. Like one thought of mine was, well, let me play the 2-player coin game with someone, with multiple people at different times to kind of get them understanding how the system works. Because it's very much I want to do X, but before I can do X, I have to do Y. But before I do Y, I have to do Z kind of thing. And that planning for it. And eventually we're just like, you know what? Gandhi just came in. I just got it from P500 on the Saturday before the Wednesday. Let's just do it. Let's just make it work. And what's really cool that the coin games do is they give you this tutorial, which is like maybe 10-ish rounds that it walks through, and it walks through the rationale for why you're doing it. Because ultimately, the mechanics of each game are pretty straightforward. If you want to take this action, check to make sure that these things are met, and then perform this action, and here's the steps to it. It's pretty simple, but it's the why. Why do I need to do this action? Why is this beneficial? It really understanding the strategy is really important to the coin games, and the tutorial kind of gives you that rationale, because it'll say, well, you could do this, but that's not that good of an idea in this situation because of whatever reason. So instead, you opt to do this. So we went through that, which took up a lot of time. And I think that if we were to play again, if we were to play Gandhi, just jump right back into Gandhi, I think we can get it done in about 3 hours. Which I know is still not quite your
still pushing it, for sure.
Yeah, sure. But then the nice thing for the most part is it's kind of easy to jump from one coin game to the next. It's just understanding what role is this particular faction playing, and how are its actions different than what I've seen before. So we all had a lot of fun. It was me, Rory, Matt Walker, and then Andres, who's one of the employees there at Empire. It was great, and I'm really hoping this means we're going to get coin games to the table a lot more often, because we just said, you know what, let's stop waiting for the perfect time. The perfect time will never come. Kind of like having kids, Alex. Playing coin games is like having kids. You sometimes got to dive right in.
Huh. Interesting. That sounds like terrible advice.
Yeah. Anyway.
Like really bad advice. Anyway.
What? No, you've never heard that? People are like, oh, well, it costs a lot of money to raise kids, and we have to wait till we have jobs.
Yeah. I've heard the phrase. Yeah, I've heard the phrase. If you wait until you're ready to have kids, you'll never have kids.
Yeah,
I've heard.
That's the thing. If you wait until you're ready to play coin games, you'll never play coin games.
I'm okay with that. Anyway,
that's Gandhi from GMT Games.
All right, cool. Well, I'll talk about a few more games from Origins Part 2. When you're working a booth, you don't have a ton of time to get in new stuff, but I did play in a couple more things. One is Conspiracy, the Solomon Gambit from Restoration Games. I don't know offhand which one this one restores. I believe Solomon, though, is named after the game's original creator, if I'm not mistaken. You'd think I'd be better prepared and would know this, but I definitely don't. So this is a game where each turn you can move an agent. Your objective is to get the briefcase back to you, or when the game ends after a certain number of rounds, to have control over Dr. Solomon himself. How this game is going to work is, on your turn, you're either going to make a payoff to one of these agents that are on the board, or you are going to try and move an agent. If you move an agent, someone can challenge you saying, I have more than you do. And you'll go through a bidding process. I have 2. Well, I have 3. Well, I have 4. And you can't lie about this. You have to say accurately how much you have. But if whoever wins that bid gets to either deny the action or allow the action to go through, and you go from there. The agents have different powers, so some will let you kind of vacuum the briefcase from one area to the other. Some let you move a couple of times. Some let you take better advantage of the subway system on the board. So you're also allowed to, if you're sharing space with another agent, off an agent. So the thing is, you can make as large of a payout to an agent as you want. You don't have to pay them one coin at a time, except for, say, Dr. Solomon. But you can just dump a bunch of coins on one person. But the trick is, someone else can just straight up kill that other agent, and then you don't have that agent to work with for the rest of the game. They're just eliminated. They're done. They're gone. Interesting. It didn't grab me as much as some other restoration titles have. I haven't played the original to know how well or poorly it restores it, but it seemed enjoyable enough if you like this sort of Stratego-esque, this is hidden and I sort of know something but you don't necessarily kind of a game. I don't know if I'm describing that very elegantly, but yeah. I mean, it's fine. Yeah, I didn't certainly wasn't over the moon with it, but it did have a gorgeous production as always. I did swing by our sponsor Arcane Wonders booth and brought home a copy of Air, Land, and Sea. Finally, this is a 2-player head-to-head game that I was pretty sure Abby was going to love, and after I got back from Origins and played it with her, can confirm she does love it. You're trying to win 2 out of 3 of these theaters of battle, air, land, and sea. If you can win 2 of those 3, you get 6 points for the round. However, if at any point during the round you feel like, this isn't going my way, you can choose to withdraw. And the earlier in the round you do that, the less points your opponent gets instead. You're playing 1 card at a time. Those cards can have different effects like flipping other cards or serving as ongoing abilities. Simple, elegant, fun, awesome game. Sean, I have to get you a copy of Volcanic Isle, which is one of their new releases as well. So,
cool.
Yeah, that's our sponsor, Arcane Wonders, Air, Land, and Sea. I played a game, Sean, I don't know who made it. I have to look this up on the fly. A game called Dino Dunk. You heard of or seen this game?
No, I have not.
Come on and slam, and welcome to the jam. Published by Twin City Games. And it is, as described, it is a game where you are dinosaurs playing basketball, trying to dunk a ball into a volcano. That's the premise of the game. Yeah. It uses discs that you kind of flick a la Zubal, or flick them up, or those kinds of things. Your players have different abilities, so the big dino, the big boy, can try and dunk. Basically, you'll flick it, and if the ball stays on top of him, the dunk is successful. Certain players have abilities to pass. You can try and steal the ball. It is slightly more complicated than you would think a flicking game about dinosaurs playing basketball would be. But it was enjoyable. From a thematic perspective, you definitely get into it. So yeah, I would recommend people check out Dino Dunk.
I'm actually looking at pictures of it right now.
Yeah.
And there's much more production than I gave it credit for in my mind, than what I would have expected.
Oh yeah, it has double layered boards to keep track of the shot clock, because of course there's a shot clock. It has ways of keeping track of score. There's different modes. We played on the beginner easy baby mode, which basically limits how complicated fouling can get in this game. It's as I mentioned, it's a little more complicated than you would imagine, but fun.
Who's the target here? the target audience?
I don't know. Sports fans, dinosaur fans.
No, I mean, like, is it kids, family?
Here's what might hurt the game is it's kind of in between, right? It has this sort of, oh yeah, you just flick the disc and then you do this, and you flick the disc and then you do that. But the rules built into that system are just a little much for what you would want for this kind of a game. So I don't know. It's kind of caught in between.
Because I'm thinking maybe I bring out Zubal for Chewy. I think Chewy's ready for Zubal.
Oh, Zubal's super. She could probably handle Zubal.
She's been on quite the board game kick recently. And,
can I mention I hate Zubal? Anytime I see that thing on the table, I am openly upset about it. Not a fan.
I'm sorry. I liked it. It was fine.
It's the fact that the mat doesn't lay flat, which I think some people say is part of the game. I get it, but I don't like it.
I think it's fine.
Whatever. So that's Dino Dunk. I also played, Sean, a new Stefan Feld game.
Yeah.
Revolution of 1828, being published by Renegade Games. This is a 2-player Feld game where you are taking on the political candidates in the election of 1828. That's Andrew Jackson versus, Sean, do you know this offhand?
No.
1820.
I'll look it up.
I'm looking it up right now. Hang on.
Yeah, but you can
John Quincy Adams. It's John Quincy Adams.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's the election between those two people. Basically, each turn you're going to draft a chip from out on the table. Those chips can help you get votes later on. If you take the last chip in an area, the elector kind of moves over towards you. If you take bad press or kind of these dirty play tokens, it'll help get you an advantage in some of these areas, but it'll slide over to the press side. If you have the press agent on your side, you'll get your opponent will get points from you instead of you getting points. So it's risky to use too many of them, but you have to grab all the chips on the board, so you have to get some of them at some point. So it's not a Feld. Is the only way. It's just not a Feld, Sean. Not even close. I don't know how to do. Like, it feels kind of like Seven Wonders Duel in a weird way, where you're trying to set up these forced choice opportunities for your opponent. Okay, well, if I take this, then they have to take that, or if I take this, and then that forces them to maybe take this and then that. I don't know. I don't know about this one. It certainly has an unusual theme. It's an oddity. It's downright strange as a game goes, Sean. Downright strange.
How does it compare in your mind to, say, what was it, Campaign Manager 2008, the Obama McCain?
I'd have to think about let me pull this up while I'm thinking about this, because I have to think about mechanically how similar it is or isn't. Let me take a look at Campaign Manager.
So while you're doing that, I'll say this: I punched out Empire's copy and I kind of took a look at the rules, and we were going to play it that night. And I was kind of like,
yeah.
And it's probably fine on its own, but whenever you have that Feld pedigree, your expectations are for a certain thing. And certainly there are Feld games that don't feel Feld-ish.
Well, but even say the race game, even Oracle at Delphi, still feels enough like a Feld.
Yeah. It's still very Feld.
Right. This is not.
Yeah.
There's multiple paths to victory, and it's, I guess, a point salad game in that you're trying to accumulate points. But just the interconnectedness of the system, I don't know about this game at all.
Do you recall how many electoral college votes there were in 1828? Is that what you're vying for?
No, it's not even that, Sean.
Oh.
No, it's not. So how it works is you're trying to win a region. You basically grab these chips that represent different regions. Okay. And again, whoever grabs the last one from that region, that elector is going to swing over to their side. So if you have, say, 3 green chips and you have the green elector, you get 3 points. If you have 3 green chips and your opponent has 1 green chip and you have the elector, you'll get there's some complicated, it's not complicated, but there's something tied to that. But it's not you win this state, you win that state, because you do this over the course of, I think, 4 rounds. and it's the same areas. They don't necessarily change. The only thing that persists round to round is how many dirty tactics chips you've picked up. Those stack up and accumulate over the course of the game, making the press increasingly important over the course of the game. But no, it's like a series of battles and then you reset, a series of battles and then you reset. It's more like Matainai than it is campaign management in that way.
And it's actually 261.
It's which one?
Was 261 was the number of electoral votes that were up for grabs.
I see.
And Andrew Jackson, with running mate John C. Calhoun, got 178. And John Quincy Adams with Richard Rush, who I've never heard of, got 83.
All right.
Who is Richard Rush? Let me look into him.
All right. You do that.
He was the 8th U.S. Attorney General.
Awesome. Excellent.
I'll research him more later.
I have one more game to talk about, and that is Bricks. This is a new Wolfgang Warsch one being put out by Stronghold Games, and it is Tetris. You are playing Tetris when you play Bricks, even more so than, say, Blocks, which I've talked about before on this show. You basically each turn, you're going to roll dice. Those dice are going to represent a shape, whether it be a square or a stick or the kind of zigzaggy ones. You cannot, though, unlike, say, in Blocks, when you can rotate, mirror, do whatever you want. In this game, you must use the shape as it's rolled unless you spend resources to rotate the shape. Power points, they're called in the game. If you complete multiple rows at the same time, that gets you a bonus on a certain track. If the shape you use to complete something matches or covers the circle of something that matches, that'll get you extra power points to use over the course of the round. If you don't want to take a shape, you can use a bomb, but you only have 3 of those, and it costs you victory points every time you take up that option. Completing a row gets you a certain number of points. Partially completing a row gets you a certain number of points, and that's the gist of it, effectively. Played this once at Origins, knew immediately this was going to be a game Abby would enjoy, so I bought a copy from Stronghold Games booth for $20, and it works. It works really well. It perfectly translates Tetris into a board game. It is multiplayer solitaire. There is absolutely no player interaction. 0. None. Save for, at the very start of the game, you each draft a unique piece from the first column. And since those have to be unique to get a different starting board setup, whatever someone drafts is going to be different from someone else. But it's multiplayer solitaire. It's multiplayer solitaire. And it still worked out pretty well. Does what it sets out to do, does it well. I like both Bricks and Blocks. I'd have a hard time recommending one over the other. Abby likes Bricks slightly better because there's a little more depth to it. So yeah. Okay. That's Origins. Had some fantastic food out there too. Sean, if you're ever in Columbus, or if anyone's in Columbus, I'd recommend Hot Chicken Takeover for some good Nashville-style hot chicken and free tea, as well as some delicious banana bread pudding.
I was actually, I lived in Columbus for a year and a half.
Oh, really?
I was like 4.
Oh, okay. Well, all right.
Did you have a Hot Sam's pretzel?
I did not.
That's something I remember. And Flaky Jake's, is there still a Flaky Jake's there?
Maybe.
It's like a burger joint, I think.
I don't remember seeing one, but it's possible. On the way back, by the way, we stopped at Kings Island outside of Cincinnati. Had some Skyline chili, had some Grater's ice cream. Those were all fantastic. And rode the Diamondback, which is absolutely insane as a ride goes. It has a 70-degree vertical drop down 200 plus feet, and it goes so fast, it rattles you up. I almost threw up several times, but I did not. I survived Diamondback. I survived Banshee as well. And that was a fun time. That was a fun time with the Monochromatic Wolf crew on the way back. So,
and I've been to Kings Island when I was 4. Yeah.
Oh, well, pretty young. Yeah.
It was the first roller coaster I'd ever been on, and it was one that I can't either, like, you went completely upside down or you went, it was something terrifying, and I begged my parents to let me go, and I guess I met the height requirement, which seems weird. And it was the worst experience of my young life, and it took me a while to get back on a roller coaster.
Oh man, the one they're famous for out there is Beast. It's been going for more than 40 years. It's an old wooden roller coaster that still holds up. Really a lot of fun. So nice park. I recommend Kings Island too. But Anyway, that's our very, very long What We Played / Origins recap segment. And when I mean very, very long, Sean, I think this is the first time in show history this has gone 50 minutes.
It's not. I'm sure it's not.
Maybe not. Hey, we're skipping news this week. So
good thing.
Yep. So let's head on over to our top 6 list after a word from our sponsors.
The game is afoot, Sean. It's afoot again. The game is a foot. It's a foot game.
What am I talking about?
I say, Holmes.
Yes. What is it, Watson?
I'm Holmes.
Did you see the Will Ferrell movie?
I did not. I heard it was absolute hot garbage.
It was really bad.
Yes. Well, you know what isn't really bad? Game toppers. I hear game toppers are amazing.
I'm a big fan. Yes.
Where's this falling apart?
Everywhere. It's falling apart everywhere. No, I'm a big fan of game toppers. My buddy Ellie's got one. Alex, you have one.
I do have one, and I certainly enjoy it. It has definitely been an upgrade for the gaming experience at an affordable price. But guess what, Sean?
What's that?
If you want to get in on the next round of Game Toppers 2.0, with brand new models, new accessories, new thematic mats, new storage solutions, all of that stuff, there's a new Kickstarter coming, and it's not too far away, June 25th. June 25th. And if you collect the clues from an ongoing video series that's on Game Toppers LLC's website, well, guess what? You could be entered to win a premium 3mm stitched edge mat. These are amazing mats. And if you win the big contest, you could win a Game Topper package valued at more than $1,000. This is a big contest. Go to the link provided in the show notes here on the Dukes of Dice and enter the contest and let them know the Dukes of Dice sent you, because this is a big opportunity, Sean.
Absolutely. So June 25th, Alex, that's only 2 fortnights away from when we're recording this.
Yes, and possibly fewer depending on when you hear this episode.
Yeah, so just remember June 25th.
Go check it out. Game Toppers LLC, upgrading your gaming experience.
General Ramirez, we're under attack.
Actually, I'm only a colonel. I've been demoted.
Colonel Ramirez, we're under attack, and you haven't been promoted.
Oh, you know what? I'm a major now. This is all falling apart.
Major Ramirez, we're under attack, and you've been demoted twice since our last conversation.
Yeah, it's really bad. I'm not good at this whole war thing, Alex. I mean, General Goldsmith.
Sorry. It was a general speaking to a fellow general.
Oh, Private Goldsmith.
Private Goldsmith. I am very private about my personal life. This is true.
I can't see your rank insignia, so I'm just not sure what you are.
Personally, I'm partial to Seaman Goldsmith. That's just me.
Wow.
Anyway, in Air, Land, and Sea from Arcane Wonders, you get to put yourself in the shoes of a general trying to win the field of battle, whether it be in the skies, on the ground, or, hey, in the water.
Wait.
That's right.
Did you just use all the synonyms for air, land, and sea?
I sure did. But I will say, in all seriousness, Sean, this is a fantastic 2-player game from Arcane Wonders. I tried it out personally at Gamma, and it was one I was looking to scoop up right away. I wanted him to give me the demo copy and let me walk away with it right then and there. I still don't have one yet. I really want one, Sean. I want it so bad. Air, Land, and Sea. This is a 2-player game where you're trying to control the different areas, but it uses card play in a really clever way. If you can control 2 of those 3 areas, you will win points. However, it pays in this game to make a strategic retreat, to lick your wounds and try and fight for a better day, because the earlier in the round you do that, the earlier in the round you give up the ghost, the less of a benefit your opponent will get if they should win. So, really a fantastic game. 2-player game. Love it. Check it out. It's from Arcane Wonders. Arcane Wonders. It's never a blunder when you go with Arcane Wonders. This week, we crowdsourced a little something, knowing that I would be away at Origins. We asked you what top 6 lists you would like to see, and one of them came out on top. It's requiring us to do a bit of a Freaky Friday, a bit of a mind swap, putting ourselves in each other's shoes. It's the top 6 Sean games for Alex and the top 6 Alex games for Sean.
All right, Alex. Well, let's dive right into, I guess, our methodology here. Or let's explain what's this about. What are these 2 lists about, Alex?
Well, so let me go back a little bit. So this was initially suggested by Joshi and Gurr, who, by the way, is relishing in us debating over how to pronounce his name every week, because Sean can never seem to get that right.
I'm just gonna call him JG from now on.
Okay, fair enough. So this was published as, top 6 Alex games from Sean, top 6 Sean games from Alex was initially how this was put up there. And we're not allowed to look at each other's lists, and I have not looked at your list. You have not looked at mine. Here's the question, though, Sean, because this can go one of two ways.
Uh-oh.
Is this the top 6 Sean games for Alex from Alex, or the top 6 Sean games for Alex from Sean? What list did you make?
These are my favorite games that I would consider to be quintessential Alex games.
Okay. So these are Alex games, but games you still enjoy.
Yes, but I would say that these are very much, there is a type of game that I would consider an Alex game. So but in opposition to that, I would say a game like Baseball Highlights 2045, your favorite game of all time, I would say is not an Alex game. Does that make sense?
It is an Alex game, but I would say for purposes of this list, which we'll describe this in a second. So hang on. Let me think about this. Are you describing the top 6 Alex games? Okay. I've misunderstood this list entirely. Boy, this is going to be fun times on the old rodeo. So because I didn't understand this completely, I came up with 6 games that I think are Alex games that I would recommend for you. And I came up with 6 Sean games that I would recommend for me, that are tolerable for me.
Okay, yeah, I went with the second version.
Okay.
Wait, what was the first one you came up with? The first list?
The first list is Alex games that I think Sean enjoys or would fit well for you.
So you made both lists, essentially.
I made both lists. Now, I'm only going to use one of these lists. So it seems like the list... So to be clear, because this is very confusing, you came up with games that you think are Alex games that you enjoy.
Yes.
Okay. Good. I have a list for this. Don't worry. I came properly prepared.
Okay, good.
But I will, because I did the work, quickly mention games that I guessed for you that fit the bill.
And I will remain silent. I will not comment at all. So these are Alex games that I would like, Sean would like.
Yeah. And by the way, before we get into all of this, I think it's important to set some context, especially by the way, if you're a first-time listener, this has to be the most confusing thing of all time.
Yeah.
What we just did. So Nick Hayes kind of laid it out properly. For folks who are newer listeners, we have different tastes in games. It's part of what has made this show last for as long as it has, more than 200 episodes now. And Nick Hayes broke down what he thinks are Sean games and what are Alex games. And I tended to agree very, very strongly with his assessment of these things. So, Sean, why don't you read out what are Sean games according to Nick Hayes?
Okay, so he says, Sean games are games that are deep, thinky, and really require a lot of time and brain power to make it through them. They are games that seem to me to really require multiple plays to become proficient at, such as Twilight Struggle. The mechanics are almost always front and center, such as Food Chain Magnate or Terra Mystica, and they seem to me to be geared more toward the individual playing each team and the personal deep experience than they are geared towards the group experience as a whole. And
yeah,
I think that's a perfect analysis. I think we'll go on to the Alex games, but what is it that I usually am looking for in a game? I want it to make me feel clever.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And I think that is the perfect explanation of that desire.
Yep. So per our list, Alex games are games that aren't necessarily very deep. Although some can stray into that territory more than others, such as Scythe, they're often very thematic, but seem to be geared more toward a fun experience rather than a thinky one. such as in the case of Baseball Highlights 2045, first mentioned, and Seven Wonders. While they can be competitive, it feels more like the group experience matters more than the individual, such as in the case of The Mind. And yeah, I would agree with that. I would say that these games should be fun on a first play, and the group table experience tends to be more important than the individual experience. If you can have fun with the theme, if you can play around, even if you're losing in a really bad, entertaining way, that can still make for a really fun game. But yeah, I'd say the group experience can matter more. And yeah, I would agree that Sean games tend to be deeper, whereas Alex games tend to be more thematic. In general, doesn't mean there aren't exceptions and things that bend those rules or dance around them. But yeah, that's I think a very fitting description.
And while I agree with his description, for my purposes, I would say he mentioned Scythe, Baseball Highlights, and Seven Wonders, all games that you enjoy quite a bit.
Yes.
However, I would not necessarily call those Alex games.
So I also think a difference between the two of us in terms of game tastes, and it's not purely this, but the difference between tactical and strategic play. So I enjoy games that are tactical, that force you to adjust on the fly, that force you to dance around. You know, Baseball Highlights 2045 is that's the reason I love that game so much, is you have to adjust on the fly, you have to be in the moment, you have to do what's best for you right now, and then also build against your opponent. What did they just play this last round? What did they just pick? But I would agree with you that if I were thinking of a game purely as an Alex game or Sean game, I don't think that game is either. Mm-hmm. I don't think that game is necessarily purely a Sean game or purely an Alex game. I think it's certainly a hybrid, even though it's my favorite game of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas The Mind I would describe as a quintessential Alex game.
And there is one game that I think can't, and I think only one game, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'd have to think about this more, but one game that I think could be both a Sean game and an Alex game. And we'll get to that.
Okay, interesting. So do you want me to, I'll just quickly read off my list of games that I had if I were to recommend Alex games for Sean.
Sure.
Okay. Detective. It makes perfect sense, but I think that's an Alex game. It's very thematic. It's meant to be focused on the group experience. So I would come on. If you're thinking of which of those two it fits, it has simple mechanics. It has some deduction and elements, but it's about that table experience. It's about the group.
Okay. So go ahead. Keep going.
Right.
Keep going.
We're Doomed, which you have yet to play, but I think is very much an Alex game because it thrives on the theme, but because of your enjoyment of world leaders and negotiation and those sorts of things, even though it's very light and can be completely thrown into the wind by an event card, I think that's a game that you would like, but it's very much an Alex game. It's short, snappy, very thematic. Yggdrasil, I have down here on my list. Have you played that one?
Have not. Andy has tried to get me to play that a bunch.
Very, very thematic, cooperative game. So again, it's another one of those where the table experience. Next one, World Championship Russian Roulette.
Okay.
Have you played that one?
No.
Oh, that game's amazing. Oh, I have to play that game with you. You would love that game so much. But it is, again, it's thematic. It's you're literally during points of that game holding a gun to your head. It plays reasonably quickly. The game's set up to where it can play big groups well. Players can drop in, drop out without suffering any real sort of penalty. It's a ton of fun. Happy Salmon I have on this list. Happy Salmon. That's a little bit of a cheat, but it's definitely an Alex game and not a Sean game. But it's one that was a game of the con for you.
Yeah. Okay.
And this one's a bit of a stretch, but it's more playing off of the theme and the table experience sometimes being more important. Evolution.
Huh. Okay.
All right. So that's my list. I don't know if there's any overlap there or not. Probably not. But yeah.
Well, so let me say this. My methodology, where I started was I pulled up the collection of our top 10s.
Okay.
Starting all the way back in 2014.
Yep.
And from those, I identified which of the games on your top 10 lists I thought would be Alex games.
Okay.
And then I broadened my search from that to games that we've reviewed, games that I remembered. And in fact, when you were saying some things just now, I realized I completely forgot a game, which it's gonna replace my number 6.
Ooh, okay.
And I'll mention, I guess we'll call that an honorable mention. So yeah, and so here are games that are some of Alex's favorites that I would not consider Alex games. So Baseball Highlights 24/5, I mentioned that. Scythe, mentioned that. But also like Motainai, I wouldn't call that an Alex game.
Oh no, definitely not. Yeah.
And then here are examples of Alex games that did not make my list. Downfall of Pompeii is very much an Alex game.
Yep.
And then Fog of Love is very much an Alex game.
Yep.
But then I specifically wrote down, and I've got, you can hear that, my paper notes here, because I printed this up and I have all these notes written on it. Because I'm prepared, Alex. I put Fog of Love, but not Detective.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and I guess for some reason, in my mind, it's not, I mean, if it's on a spectrum of Sean to Alex, maybe it's closer to Alex, but I don't think it crosses that threshold to get there all the way.
I think if you're looking at that description and it's talking about personal experience versus group experience, the group experience of Detective is set up in such a way that takes supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also not a particularly deep game in terms of its mechanics. It's deep in terms of some of the stories it's trying to tell. But I think there's enough factors there that I would categorize that as an Alex game, even if it's one that you also gave a 6. Yeah,
and could be.
Okay.
So how did you come up with the second list that you've created?
It was what I did was I thought about games that I would enjoy. Games that I have enjoyed that I consider to be quintessential Sean games for one reason or another. And there are varying reasons for these, but ones that fit that description that we just saw. But I still really enjoy games that I would say are easily Sean games that I still enjoy. That's my methodology. I don't have the same amount of notes or preparation as you do because I did 2 lists, and also because I'm me.
Okay.
By the way, this is also one of my infamous list of 6s. I didn't actually put them in any sort of order. Primarily to troll you.
Yeah. Well, that in and of itself is an Alex game.
Yep, it is. No doubt. So do you want to do an honorable mention or 2 here first?
Yeah. So the one I just kicked off the list was Mysterium, which is a game that I was actually not super crazy about when it first came out. And over the years has grown on me just a little bit, which is why it was at number 6 and now just kicked off. So this is a game where one player is the ghost. It's a cooperative game, and they're trying to have the other players guess their identity, the murder weapon, and what was the other one? The location where they were murdered, I think.
Yeah, it's location, person, weapon. Yep.
And it's through giving them these whimsical or creepy cards, describing the art that way. And you're trying to cue them in. Some element from the card you're giving them has to deal with one of the cards that's in the tableau that they're supposed to link. Sometimes it's color, sometimes it's a type of object, sometimes it can be very abstract. And there seemed to be a lot of downtime in my first initial plays of it, which was what kind of held it back for me, but it grew on me. And it's very much an Alex game in that there's this fantastic group experience. So yeah, it just missed the list, although it kind of made the list, then got kicked off.
Yeah, if I were thinking about it, that I wasn't one that I would have thought about for you, but it's definitely an Alex game. What's interesting is its close cousin, a game whose name I cannot mention because it comes from Monochromatic Wolf, Play Experiences. I'm not sure if that's an Alex or Sean game.
Yeah, I don't think it's an Alex. So you're talking about lying homicide in Hong Kong. So I want to just name another Asian
Okay,
city.
Great. Awesome. Excellent. Deceit. Homicide in Taipei.
Yeah.
There you go. Anyway, that particular game, I think, because you're so good at the social deduction side of things, and because that can have an individual goal to it sometimes, I don't know if I'd put that purely one way or the other, even though those 2 games have been compared. But Mysterium is 100% an Alex game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
no
definitely.
Cool. Any other honorable mentions or?
No, that's it. I mean, I suppose. Yeah, no, that's it.
Matai Nai was one that I have as an honorable mention. That it's a game that I really, really, really enjoy, obviously. But I think by all means, because of the lack of theme, because of you have to play it several times to get better at it, it's a much deeper game. I think that tends to me to be that's a Sean game, I would say. But one that did not make the list. Not because it's not high up there, but because it's not Sean enough to make the list.
Okay,
yeah,
that's fair.
All right.
Number 6.
So my 6th item on my list of 6 is a game that is about Magic the Gathering, but is not Magic the Gathering. It's in a sense sort of a parody of this. Millennium Blades.
Yeah.
Millennium Blades. I consider this one to be a quintessential Sean game because it involves negotiation. The game has some degree of depth of strategy, of trying to build card synergies. And of course, it's about Magic the Gathering, a theme that you really, really enjoy. But it's a game I also happen to really love a lot. And it's been way too long since I've played Millennium Blades. Ton of fun. I love the real-time negotiating, the set building, the deal making, the deck building elements or hand management. It all works together really well. It's not a theme that I'm particularly in love with or feel engaged by, but it does what it does really, really, really well. I would call this one a Sean game and one that is a true classic for me.
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. Yeah. All right. Well, my number 6 is an oldie but a goodie, Heartthrob. I completely forgot about Heartthrob. Let me look at my list here. This is
oh boy.
This is either the. Is it possible that Heartthrob is the most Alex game of all Alex games? Or at least in the top 2 or 3.
It's up there.
Of what defines an Alex game. Alex, describe Heartthrob for our listeners.
So Heartthrob is a game from the late 80s, early 90s. I couldn't tell you exactly when, but basically it's a dating game. I'm just smiling thinking about this game. I'm just smiling so much thinking about this game. It comes with a deck of 60 dudes in various poses, whether it's the infamous Trevor with his bolo tie, or it's this guy and his dog, or it's someone in a ski outfit. But you have, for a game, 5 of these dreamy dudes. And each round, you will reveal new traits about these dudes. So it starts off with just appearance. You'll write down who you want to dance with, who your favorite is based off of appearance. And then you are going to guess how everyone else at the table picked. The more correct you are about who you got right, the better off you do. The next round, you'll learn more about them. You might learn that they frequently swap dates with their twin brother, which is absolutely a card in the game. You might learn that they eat bugs to gross out girls, like all sorts of these kinds of just bananas cards. And you'll start telling stories about these dudes as you go. Again, picking after revealing new traits. Whoever has guesses the most correctly from other people wins. It's a fantastic game. Oh, it's so good. It's so funny. I love Heartthrob. It's one of those so bad it's good games to me.
Yeah. And what's interesting is I just came across the Heartthrob BGG page, and I just downloaded
oh boy
42 new cards that are all of the Heartthrobs from the various Star Treks. So from the original series, from the new movies, Deep Space Nine, Next Gen, Voyager.
No. Is Data in there?
Oh yeah, Data's in here.
Oh boy.
And he's got, it's actually Data and Spot, his cat. And the weird one, I mean, there's Gowron, the Klingon Chancellor. There's Hugh, a Borg who gained self-awareness. And the weirdest of all, it's got Q in his mariachi. There we go.
Okay,
I can speak.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mariachi outfit. And then it's got, the weirdest one is it has the crystalline entity. Are you familiar with the crystalline entity,
I
Alex?
have no idea what this is, but it sounds hilarious.
It's this big, giant space crystal that is responsible for killing Data's father, I believe.
Oh.
And it like just murders planets, but it's not actually hostile. it was a good episode.
So Abby has suggested doing a version of this that's like Tinder. Basically, you go onto Tinder and download a bunch of guys' profile pictures, print those out, and then play with that.
That's pretty good.
That would be good. In fact, over at Monochromatic Wolf, I did come up with a fake Tinder profile for Gray Fox Games. I said it. Dang it. Monochromatic Wolf Play Experiences to pitch doing a Heartthrob reboot as Tinder the game. But no response. No response to that.
I see.
Anyway.
I see. I'm gonna print up these Star Trek cards, and we're gonna play this at Empire one night.
That's gonna be amazing. Anyway,
I'm gonna drag Matthew kicking and screaming into it.
No, it's absolutely an Alex game through and through, and you probably can't get more Alex than that game.
No.
Interesting.
It's pretty
very
fun.
interesting.
It's pretty stupid.
Cool. Nice pick. Nice pick there.
Number 5.
My number 5 is on the spectrum of Alex games. This is a little bit more mechanically intensive than most, but it definitely still fits the bill because of the narrative experience. And that's Near and Far.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, I think definitely more mechanics than I would usually put in on this list. But you love the storytelling. And so here's the thing. I don't know, you like Near and Far better than Above and Below, correct?
I do, but I would argue that Above and Below is more of an Alex game, if only because the storytelling is more dominant in that game than it is in Near and Far.
Right. And I agree, and I thought about that. But I enjoy Near and Far more than I enjoy Above and Below.
Yes, I do too.
So this is a Ryan Lockett game where there's some worker placement, but then there's also some adventuring around the map where you're defeating bandits and you're going on quests, and you're reading from this encounter book, which gives you options, and then you have to roll certain tests to see if you can overcome or not. And it's a great game. I wasn't quite as high on it as you were, but as among Alex games, it definitely would rate highly for me. Beautiful art from Ryan, and but yeah, I think the storytelling here is strong, and it's a lot of times the narrative thing is something that you like to create yourself, and this isn't that necessarily, but sometimes you still like to kind of go along for the ride, and so I think this is a good example of one of those types of games.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick.
Yeah.
Good pick for sure.
So that's my number 5, Near and Far.
All right, next one I am going to get into is it's a game that the theme is the big part of why this is one that I enjoy, but the game itself is all Sean, all day, every day, and that game is Blood Bowl.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think that's properly a Sean game to me.
Yeah, I think so.
It's for folks who don't know, this is a football simulation where you are playing as a fantasy football team. Fantasy being, orcs or elves or humans or frogs, whatever else, and you are playing against each other in a game of, well, pretty much football. The main reason it gets into being a Sean game is because of how many different charts you have to look up in this game when you're rolling dice for injuries or rolling dice for blocks or setting up different situations. It's very much a strategic game as you're looking out over the board and trying to set up blocks properly and get good actions, open up holes for your players to run through. This is, it's a Sean game in that sense, but it's a theme because it's a sports theme. I can't get it out of my head. If they had it available for the Nintendo Switch, which at last check they do not, I would be all about this. I would play this game so much. I don't have anything I can play it on, and I don't like playing it in person well enough to want to really do that a bunch. But it's a game that I really enjoy for the theme. Some of the mechanics drive me absolutely nutty. It's just a little bit too intricate in some of those things, but it's definitely the Sean experience for sure.
Yeah.
So,
no, I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So that's my number 5 on my list of 5, Blood Bowl.
Number 4.
All right, my number 4 Sean game that is something I really enjoy is Castles of Burgundy. And honestly, you could put just about any failed game in here.
1828?
Not that one. Sorry. I said just about.
Okay,
I didn't
fair
say
enough.
any failed game. But failed games tend to be more Sean experiences. There's certainly a depth there and a lack of theme that would have them fit squarely into being Sean games as a whole when they're done right. And Castles of Burgundy is the pinnacle of that. It's a game that has it looks terrible. It doesn't look very good. The components are annoying. I'm excited for the new edition of this that does this game some justice. But the gameplay itself is so fantastic. All the pieces just click together in such a satisfying way that even though it's so dry, it's a boring-looking Euro, it's a game that is fantastic. But because it's a dry, boring-looking Euro, it's more of a Sean game than an Alex game by a lot.
Sure.
So that's my number 4 on my list of 4, Castles of Burgundy.
All right, my number 4 is a game that I have highly rated. Let me see here. Yeah, it made my top 10 in 2015. And I think that's it. And it's from our sponsor, Arcane Wonders. Alex? You know?
I
can't guess.
Oh, Sheriff of Nottingham.
Yeah, Sheriff of Nottingham.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is a fantastic bluffing game. You're basically taking turns being the sheriff who is trying to keep contraband from getting in, and then everyone else is trying to get contraband in. And I mean, there's some set collection, and you're trying to get sets of apples in and sets of chickens in, and you can lie about it or tell the truth. And if the sheriff guesses wrong, he has to pay you. But if he catches you with contraband, then you have to pay him. And it's just great bluffing. And talking about games where you're kind of creating a story yourself. I think this is one where you tend to do that quite a bit, Alex.
Oh yeah, the sheer voices for the sheriff that can come out in these games are fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's just a tremendous game, and but definitely high on the experiential end. Not cooperative, obviously, but there's still this kind of group storytelling that can occur.
Yeah.
I mean, with the wrong group of players, it could just be a boring mechanic.
With the wrong group of players, the game is terrible.
Yeah.
But that's true for a lot of games.
Sure. So, yeah, I think Sheriff of Nottingham is a game that I highly enjoy that most definitely I would call an Alex game.
Okay.
So that's my number 4.
Number 3.
All right, my number 3 is The Mind.
The Mind.
And we've talked about this game plenty. I'll say that, once again, it's either a game that people love or hate. And really, that's it. There's no, it's okay. I kind of like it. People hate this game or people love this game. And this is, man, it is such a stupid game. Like when you get right down to it, there's just nothing there, which is why sometimes it gets the attack from certain people that it's not really a game. It's whatever, which I disagree with. It is a game. Basically, it's a deck of cards, 1 to 100. And in round 1, everyone gets 1 card, and you are trying to play them in ascending order without going out of order. And you have nothing to go off of. You can't give hints. There's no turns. There's no signals you can give. If I have a 5 and it's me and one other person and there's one other card, it's a pretty good shot that I'm going to lay that down. But maybe my 22 is a little bit more up in the air. I mean, statistically, yeah, but you might have the 20, right? So, but for the most part, again, with the right players, this is a fantastic experiential game where there's this mind meld going on, and you're down to your last life or the last couple lives, and it's just so tight. And that moment when you're at 91 and you're like, I think I play this, but this person has a card left. And it goes 91, 92. And you're like, oh, that's great. Or just how crestfallen you can become when you just barely get it out of order. It's just, it's so celebratory or so just defeating almost. And it creates these emotional highs and lows that the simple game has no business creating.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well said.
Yeah. So
it's one of those, why hasn't this existed before kind of games? It's so simple, but it's so effective. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is my number 3, The Mind.
The Mind. All right. My number 3 on my list of 3 is a game that's an oldie but a goodie. And actually, 2 of these last 3 are oldies but goodies on this list. This is one of the earlier games we ever reviewed, Sean, but it was one of the first ones where I said, this is definitely a game that I didn't think I was going to enjoy, but I really actually liked it a lot. Battle Lore, 2nd edition.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Definitely a Sean game. It's You're talking combat, dudes on a map, trying to outwit the opponent, move your units into a proper position, play the right cards at the right time. I'm not usually a big fan of dudes on a map games as a whole. This one worked for me for whatever reason. This is one that I would happily play again and again. There aren't probably many Richard board games I wouldn't. Did he do Memoir as well?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then never mind. That system seems to work for me for whatever reason.
Well, and I think it's more of a tactical game than a strategic game.
Sure. I think that helps too.
Gets it across for you.
Yeah, it's probably the fact that you have to kind of react in the moment, but there's still that broader strategy. If you overcommit too far in one area or make the wrong move at the wrong time, it can definitely go sideways for you, as it has for me plenty of times. But this is a game where I downloaded the app and played a bunch on the app and had fun. But I'd still play it in person too. I probably don't know all the rules at this point, though.
Would you consider playing or trying any of the Commands and Colors GMT games that are just blocks with stickers on them?
I don't know enough about the distinctions or differences there to know whether that's something I would enjoy. I will say, because I've enjoyed his systems well enough, probably willing to at least try it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Battle Lore 2nd edition, a Sean game, but one that for some reason catches my interest.
Number 2.
My number 2 is a game I played at Dice Tower Con last year. There is a whole company that makes games that are purely Sean games, entirely Sean games. I don't think they make a game that is not a Sean game. Splotter. But I played one last year that I loved. I don't love Food Chain Magnate. I think that game's trash. But I did love Indonesia.
What? You loved Indonesia?
Loved
I don't remember
Indonesia.
You loving.
I loved, certainly. Well, I'll put it this way. Relative to what I had expected going in.
Okay.
And relative to my experiences with Splotter previously and kind of what I feel they kind of stand for.
Yeah.
Splotter, if I were to think of a company, I know you love Capstone, and they're certainly in this boat too. But I think Splotter even more so is Splotter and GMT are very much Sean companies. Companies that publish purely Sean games. But Indonesia is one I like. This is a pick up and deliver economic management game where you are trying to deliver goods throughout Indonesia. And you're building companies. You're maybe losing shares in companies. People can buy you out. I had a good amount of fun with this. It took a little long, as I was expecting it to take, but I'd play that one again. And it certainly left me after that game thinking of, ooh, what if I'd done this, or what if I'd done that, or if I'd done this instead. It worked really well. It worked better than Food Chain Magnate, which was an utter and complete disaster for me.
I think that Indonesia has a certain experiential factor too.
Okay.
And there's a story to these companies and the hostile takeovers and as you're going from one era to the next, and different commodities are becoming available. Although you hate that you can't transport overland, if I remember correctly.
Which is completely annoying. It's absolute. Oh, those roads they're too swampy. You can't drive that over there. Nope.
It's probably a union thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that at some point, you need to try Antiquity.
Okay, Antiquity.
Yeah, it is. Oh man, it is rough. It is a rough game, but I think you will like it. Man, I want to play that now. I want to play Indonesia too, and I want to play Food Chain. Man, I want to play those.
Not Food Chain. Get that thing away from me. So anyway, That's my number 2, Indonesia.
All right. Well, my number 2 is another game that we first played at Dice Tower Con. It is a dexterity game.
Uh-huh. I know
Thoughts,
this game.
Alex?
I know this game already.
It's Flip Ships.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's Flip Ships. Flip Ships is a fantastic game that is a dexterity game in which you are taking these little cardboard spaceships, space fighters, putting on this little wooden block, and then flicking it onto these rows of advancing alien ships, and eventually perhaps trying to get it inside this big box that is the mothership, so as to destroy them and save humanity from this alien scourge. There are some individual player powers. It is cooperative. It is super fun. This game has, again, it's that shared experience. It's that story that you're telling. It's the just well-placed flip that just decimates a whole, 2x2 thing of the aliens. Or, okay, we gotta get this shot right in the mothership, and man, you just miss it. Just banks off off one of the corners and misses. Oh, it is such a good game. It's super fun. And here's the downside: I have not played it since, because there's no way for me to play it here at the house.
Mm-hmm.
And dexterity games like this just don't work at Empire. They really don't work at Empire.
I could see that. Yeah.
But it's a game that I think about a lot. That, I mean, if at a con, in fact, the couple times I've gone to a con, we haven't played this. I don't know why. But it's such a good game. It's such a good game, and most definitely an Alex game.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So that is Flip Ships.
Number 1.
All right, my number 1. Well, before I say my number 1, Alex, I have no idea what your number 1 is.
Okay.
But well, that's fine.
Now, keep in mind, it's a list of 6.
Oh, that's right. All the tension, all the buildup is now gone, Alex.
Can I tell you when we get to it? It's an oldie but a goodie.
Okay. Well, my number 1 is not the most Alex game on the list, but is certainly the one that I like the most. But at the same time, and I alluded to this earlier, this could be both an Alex game and a Sean game.
Ooh.
And then, so I'm not saying it's like in the middle. I'm saying that there's some sort of Heisenberg uncertainty principle at work here, where it exists in both places simultaneously.
Okay.
Alex, do you have any idea what this
No,
could
I'm completely lost.
What's the worst hint I could give you? Wow, no, I think all the hints are obvious. Okay. It is Pathfinder the Adventure card game.
Ah.
Because on one hand, it is this cooperative game. There is the shared experience. You're going through a campaign with these characters that you become very attached to, that are growing in ability. Their decks get better with new spells or new weapons or new armor. And it was amazing to me how much of a story we were able to create from not much. I mean, there's a very short introduction to a scenario on a card, a very short introduction to each act of the campaign that really is not leaving you much to do with, but somehow we managed. And the way that we saw these characters grow, get new abilities. I mean, man, I really wanted, what was his name? I can't remember his name. What's the wizard's name?
I don't know it offhand either. Ezra? No.
Ezrin,
maybe.
Ezrin?
Yeah.
Man, and he's like the wizard from Pathfinder. Anyway, I wanted him to get this red dragon familiar or pet so bad. And I remember it kept flipping up, and I'd fail the check, and then the next scenario would come up again and I'd fail the check. And I think I finally got him. But this is a fantastic game that is also pretty, not complex mechanically, but there's a lot of mechanics, because you are spending a ton of time setting up individual scenarios. You have to create these location decks with a certain number of cards that are spells and weapons and blessings. And then you have to keep in mind what are the different effects of each location. Is there an effect when you are able to go through the deck and close that location? There's the randomness of when do you see the big bad villain for that particular scenario and his or her henchmen. There's kind of a lot going on here to keep track of mechanically. And it's not super complex, but there's also the element of the leveling up and the campaign style game, which is very much in a lot of ways a Sean style game, that I think it has a foot in both camps very firmly. And it's a game that I enjoy quite a bit, that I've played the app of, and I guess there's a new edition coming out, which is like all brand new, beautiful art, the card design, because it kind of looks terrible. The old card design.
Yeah.
But there's this new card design that's coming out that looks fantastic. And it's a game that I remember very fondly, and I wish we had more time to play more of it, because it is such a great game, super fun, and it is my number one Alex game that could also be a Sean game.
Yeah, I could see it as being kind of a bit of a hybrid between both. I don't know. The story that emerged from that was certainly pretty robust. Yeah. I would tilt it a little more towards being a Sean game.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Yeah, but not much. That's not a bad pick. Not a bad pick, and definitely resurrected an older one. And I think I found as I was going through the list that going back through older episodes helped me build this for sure. Specifically, this last one, Sean. This is an oldie but a goodie, and it's a game that takes a long time to teach, like an absurdly long time to teach. Do you know the game offhand that I'm referring to? It's a game that has disappeared off the scene. I have not seen this on a table in a very long time.
Takes a long time to teach.
Really long time to teach.
Really long time to teach. Give me another hint.
Has a theme.
Okay.
Has a theme that generated a song, not Kanban. I considered putting a Lacerda game on there, but I just don't enjoy any of them quite well enough.
Right.
Venos would be one I would have considered in retrospect, maybe as an honorable mention, or even one that would get a slot on the list. It's not that. It's not that one.
Has a theme
there was a whole song.
I'm going to kick myself.
Alchemists.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's go poison the students.
Let's go poison a student. Let's go poison a student. Let's go poison a student. That student's pretty dead.
Yeah, that's definitely a Sean game.
Oh, 100% a Sean game. But with a theme that somehow grabbed me, and I enjoyed it well enough. I wasn't very good at it. I did okay, but I wasn't very good at coming up with the right theories at the right times. But it all clicked together well enough when I played it that I really would get into this game. And it is certainly thematically one that you build the theme as you play. I love this idea of refuting someone's paper and getting credit for that, and all of these scholars arguing over, no, elder bears clearly do this thing. Rah, 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 rah. And of course, the whole idea that you can basically have one of your unwitting students test your potion instead of you actually trying it yourself is fantastic.
Yeah,
so it had so many of those little touches that it's a Sean game, but one I ended up enjoying. I don't know if it's one I'd recommend, if only because the teach on it is so unbelievably long. I recall being in an atrocious mood during that teach specifically.
I remember you being in an atrocious mood for a lot of teaches.
Yeah, but this one especially, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's Alchemists. It's definitely a quintessential Sean game, but one that I still enjoyed. If I can come up with a song for a game, that's usually a good song.
Yeah. No, that's something. Yeah, exactly.
So that'll do it, Sean. Our first top 6 in a while, but I think this came together pretty well, despite the fact that I made 2 lists.
Yeah, good job. And what's funny is we had a text exchange where there may or may not have been a clarification. And then at first I thought I misread it and I gave you a call. You sent me to voicemail.
Oops.
And then I said, oh, never mind. I think I figured it out. But apparently we still needed to clarify.
It's fine. Okay. It's all fine. It all worked out. So that's our top 6 list. Let's head on over to our Duke's quadruple take.
You are listening to the Dukes of Dice, proud members of the Dice Tower Network. For other great shows in the network, check out Dicetowernetwork.com. Back to Alex and Sean for this week's Dukes Double Take.
Starting off our Duke's Quadruple Take, a game from episode 177, Rolling Dice and Printing Games. Steamrollers. This is a train-themed roll and write that is a little more robust than your typical roll and write. And we were both decently high on this. Sean, you gave this one a 5 at the time. You said it was a roll and write 6. Not a full centerpiece experience, but still really enjoyed it and liked a lot of what it brought. I gave this one a 5 as well. I said it's substantive gaming, it's accessible, has interesting enough decisions. And listening back to this, I was way higher than I remembered on this game. Way higher.
Really?
Yeah. Sean, have you played this game since?
Yeah, I have. I've played it at least once or twice. And yeah, I love this roll and write. There's some pick up and deliver here, which in the past I haven't been a huge fan of, but I'm definitely kind of coming around a little bit more to pick up and deliver. It's just it's a great little 18xx roll and write. There's no stock market or anything like that, and so it's more like an Age of Steam roll and write. I'll put it that way.
Okay. I have played this one since, and it actually had a dramatic effect on my score. A dramatic effect.
Uh-oh.
Because I thought this was a good one to try and play with Abby relatively early on in our relationship.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And among games that I've played with her, this is way, way down there. If you think about games she did not enjoy that we played together, this one, Bushido. I mean, I have to come up with another name for that one. Sorry, another monochromatic wolf game, and Space Base are all ones she has certainly not enjoyed. Really, really did not care for, and it pulled my enjoyment of the game down a bit. Not because I think any differently of it, but just because it limits who I can play it with and how frequently. Mm-hmm. So I think I ended up. I don't think I have this one anymore. Oddly, I think I got rid of it during the big I'm moving in with Abby sale,
right?
Giveaway promotion. So I will drop this one. I did get rid of it, but I still like it. I still like you, Steamrollers. But it goes from a 5 to a 4, if only because if I didn't like it well enough to keep it, that's not usually a great sign for a game.
And John, did we mention we rate things here on a 6-point scale?
Oh yeah, sorry, it's our first rating thing of the episode. Yeah, we rate things on a 6-point scale. 1 being low, 6 being high. If you got through the whole Sean games for Alex and Alex games for Sean thing, there's no way you're a new listener still. There's absolutely no way. So they already know.
A 4 is a good game, worth playing just all the time, belongs in the Duchy. Yeah, I'm going to keep this at a 5. A great game, will rarely turn down to play of it. I think it's fantastic. And a roll and write 6 for me.
Now, here's the thing. The Guild completely disagrees on this game.
Yeah.
Sylvain Lacroix says, when I heard about that game, I was really eager to try it out. A roll and write pick up and deliver game. Interesting. However, after 5 plays, I found the game to be only meh. Not bad, but not very good either. I would give it a low 3.
And then Brett Mowers says, I found it to be a bit too much game for a roll and write. Not a bad thing, but not what I look for when I want to sit down, chuck some dice, and write some stuff. A 3 for me.
I find this take a little bit baffling because I get this idea of, sometimes you want later experiences, but I don't know why a roll and write has to be just that kind of an experience. In fact, I would hope that at some point, Vital Lacerda would come up with a roll and write to prove everyone wrong.
Yeah, but you would have like a 15-page booklet.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, actually, that sounds,
right?
Huh.
So I think because this mechanic has been used for more cute things or more lighter titles, it's sort of gotten that reputation, but I don't think that should limit what it can be. So
sure.
I don't know if I agree with that take, but fair enough. Sean Jones says, I like this roll and write a good amount. A little more depth than many of them, which I prefer, and it doesn't feel all that samey after a few plays, which can be a criticism of roll and writes. A solid 4 from me. So one member of the Duchy kind of with us, 2 not so much. So yeah, that's our look at Steamrollers. Goes from a 5 to a 4 for me and stays at a 5 for you. Next up, Sean, Dragon Castle. Episode 178, Mahjong and Winding Road. This one was a really weird one to listen to. It was less than an hour long. In fact, that episode was shorter than our opening discussion segment for this episode because we had technical issues.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's
My track
right.
was fine. Your track was not. Well, the first of several of these kinds of issues, I should mention.
Yeah, it was like 3 in a 2-month period or something.
Yeah, not ideal.
Yeah.
So at the time you gave this one a 3. You said, I can see the merit to it. It's just not a title that's right for me. There just wasn't enough depth to keep you engaged. I gave this one the lowest possible 5 I could. Said that I found the gameplay interesting enough and that there was really interesting variety for some of those scoring cards. I liked what that did with the game. Sean, have you played this one since?
Nope. And I actually can't even remember how to play it, like in the slightest.
Cool. Neat. I can sort of remember how to play it, but I have not played it since. And so that lowest 5 will tip down into a 4. I enjoy the quick gameplay. I enjoy the table presence. I enjoy the variety in the scoring cards, but not so much that I went out to acquire a copy and not so much that I actually have played it in the year since, which is telling. Again, a little bit telling with this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will likely keep it at a 3. I mean, I would play it again. I wouldn't be super enthusiastic to do so, but I'd play it again, I guess.
Sure. Awesome. Ringing endorsement.
Yep.
Dr. Gumbo says, it's a pleasant adaptation of Mahjong, and I had fun. I taught it to some new gamers, and surprisingly, they loved it and played it multiple times. After a few plays, it felt a little samey, and I think the endgame drags. I'd give it a solid 3, but good marks for the production.
And then Sylvain Lacroix says, first of all, the look of the game is incredible. I really dig the Mahjong tiles. It is a neat little puzzle game, and guess what? That's the type of game I really like. Plays quick, about 20 to 30 minutes, offers interesting decisions, it's easy to put on the table, and a lot of people will enjoy. I will give it a 4 on the Ducal scale.
And then Sean Jones says, a beautiful abstract that I've only played twice. I enjoyed both plays of it well enough, but it just didn't hit with me for some reason. Meh 3. So the guild closer to you than to me with this one, maybe.
Yeah. Game is okay, by the way, 3. Game is okay, not exciting. We'll play in the right situation.
Again, if they made it through that segment, Sean, everyone knows. Come on.
We do it every time. We always.
I know we do it every time, but this is a special exception. This episode is such an insider baseball episode. I don't know. Anyway, if you're a first-time listener, by the way, and you were listening to this, I'd be really curious to hear your reactions to this episode as a whole. Anyway.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, this would not be a great. This is not a good episode 0.
No, this is. Anyway. So that's going to do it, though. That's going to do it for the Duke's Quadruple Take. Dragon Castle stays right there at a 3 for Sean and drops from the lowest possible 5 straight into a square 4 for me. Before we wrap things up, though, we have the rest of the top 6. The names we didn't pick, but still liked well enough to kind of put them on this list. Starting it off with the Name Father with Either Origins. So kind of taking either or and mixing it with Origins. Solid name pick from the Name Father yet again.
And then Blaine Miley suggested Trading Places, which is what we referenced earlier in the show. What was that Eddie Murphy and Anne Aykroyd? Wow. Dan Aykroyd.
Amazing.
Wow. That was excellent. Yeah, that's a good movie. That's all I
Anne
got.
Aykroyd does not exist and was not in that movie.
Well, Anne Aykroyd might exist. Correct.
I hope so. Let me look on Facebook right now.
I'm
How
gonna
are we
look
spelling
up
Anne?
Anne Aykroyd, and it's probably going to correct it to. Maybe there's an Anne Aykroyd.
I saw the same thing you did. There are several Anne Aykroyds, but no Anne Aykroyds.
There's an Anne Aykroyd on Twitter.
Okay.
Which is close. Very close.
Yeah, sorry. You've made something completely and wholly new. Congratulations. Anyway. Yeah, but Trading Places because we kind of swapped spots, thought more about each other's taste of games for a little bit. All right, Randy Beery with a bit of an inside joke, but one that was pretty funny to me. Chopper copters, referring to exclusively to the play of Escape Plan that we had at Origins, where if you have motorcycle gangs, those can act as helicopters in certain situations. And I just imagined like the motorcycle spinning upside down and then spinning around like the rotor of a helicopter. So that's how you got chopper copters.
So you're too young for the cartoon from the 80s called Mask.
Okay.
It was called Mask, where you had these, it's kind of like budget Transformers.
Oh,
where
yeah. Way too old for this.
Instead of cars turning in, or vehicles turning into robots, these vehicles turn into different vehicles.
Okay.
So and there were toys, right? And there's a motorcycle that you flip a couple things and it turns into a helicopter.
Oh, okay.
And there's like a DeLorean style car that the wings open and it flies.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Not part of my thought process with this at all.
No.
But I'm happy to hear it's somewhat based in reality.
Fleshing it out. And then Philip Millman, and I'll need some help with this, Alex, suggested the 6 spires of Columbus. I mean, there's a top 6 in there.
Yep. Top 6, and then Dragon Castle, Castle Spires, and then Columbus for Origins.
Sure. Okay. Perfect.
Yep. Ben Ogden finally with Flip Ships, referencing a game that was absolutely on one of the lists, and the fact that we were flipping for this episode. And I guess technically with the railroads, you're shipping things via rail. Got him.
Yes.
Got him good. Yep. So,
which is why the S is in parentheses.
Sure. Obviously.
I don't know.
Anyway. But that'll do it. Hey, Sean, guess where I'm going to be in 2 weeks when we're recording our next episode?
You're going to be at SeanCon.
No.
Oh, no.
That's a week before SeanCon, which I will not be attending.
Wait, yeah, you will.
I mean, I'll be there in town. I don't know if I'll have time to actually come in game.
Wait, you're not... What?
I'm visiting with my girl. Abby's coming to visit my folks. Like, we're meeting up in Santa Fe most of the time.
But this is SeanCon.
It's a convention you made up without me. It will live on without me just fine.
Andy's going to be here.
Cool.
So it's going to be July 11th.
I plan
Thursday,
on
July 11th.
I plan on meeting up. I plan on meeting your fine folks and you.
Thursday night, the SeanCon tradition is we're going to go to the piano bar.
I will certainly be in Santa Fe.
On Thursday night?
Yes.
Late Thursday night?
Yes.
At like 10 o'clock at night?
Unless I drive down from Santa Fe in my folks' car. Okay. Which I guess I could do.
Yes, you could. It's like an hour away.
Maybe. I'll give you a firm maybe on some of the SeanCon activities.
Wow. I have people coming.
You haven't even been here yet, my dude, or any convention.
You have family here in the state.
Okay, I do have family
I have no
here.
connection to St. Louis.
Well, you should come out and visit anyway. We got good barbecue, which will be great for the newfound diet.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, yeah. It could be just a little fattier protein. That's fine.
No, I'm going to be at Dice Tower Con.
Oh, yeah, Dice Tower Con. That too.
Yeah, that one. So we'll talk off air a little bit about what that means for our next episode. But yeah, I'll be at Dice Tower Con.
That'll be interesting. Well, it might be a Seanless episode again, like last year.
It might be. Or we might find some way around it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Seanless episodes are a lot of work.
Are they?
Yeah. Got to bring my recorder out there and record it with a bunch of people. It's so hard. That's
so much work. I don't know how you manage.
Anyway. But yeah, that'll do it for episode 203.
Thanks again to Brett Mowers for titling this Baseball Highlights of the Gathering. And that will do it until next time. This is Sean.
And Alex.
And Duke you later, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to the Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy on June 23rd, 2019. Our theme music provided by Carbohydro M from his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board gaming podcasts, check out DicetowerNetwork.com. And for all the latest in the Duchy, go to DukesOfDice.com. Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice. Join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild. Find us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsors, Arcane Wonders and Game Toppers, LLC. You can learn more about Arcane Wonders' latest releases at arcanewonders.com and find out more about Game Toppers, including their upcoming Kickstarter, at GameToppersLLC.com. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Until then, game on!